Um, yeah, so obviously a high level of frustration. Anytime you lose 3 games in a row, you feel that way, and we didn't do enough offensively to get the job done. I thought our defense played really, really well. I mean, they're doing everything that we're asking them to do, and trying to get that field position going. Special teams play well, and then just recurring theme here on offense. So that starts with me, and we got to get it better.
Jason Leisure.
Matt, how did the offense get this bad? And as you point out, it's a recurring theme. What steps are you willing to take immediately to change it?
Yeah, it's hard to say right now, right after, an hour, whatever it is, half hour after the game. And so I got to go back and watch it. But, we're at a point, we knew going into today's game that it was going to be challenging in certain areas when you're in this position that we're in. And we understand that. But to me, Jason, I think the biggest thing is it's one thing, there's going to be a play here or there where you're going to get beat. And I'm saying everywhere, like there'll be a mistake that we make, everybody, whether it's coaches and or players. But the ones that bother me are the ones where you have the senseless ones with the penalties that set you back 5 yards and make it 2nd and 15, or they're drive killers. Those are the ones that, and again, we're discussing that. We talk about that, and they're continuing to happen. So, yeah, that has to stop. It just, you have to get in a rhythm, and then in the red zone, you got to be more effective. So, that's what we got to do.
Matt, you mentioned the penalties, but on your first 6 drives, you didn't have any penalties, and you still didn't wind up scoring any points. Do you feel like there are answers in the playbook, in the roster that you have right now to fix this?
Yeah, I do. And it's when that's a good thing. And I did feel early on that, we had a couple of those drives where it wasn't so much the penalties on the front end, JJ, it was more of the 3 and outs. We weren't getting first downs, and that's what felt like it on the front end. And then, you get to a point there at the end of the half where you get a couple completions, and then you're just going backwards instead of going forward, and when you have that, and then the rest of the game, there's just some stuff that went on that it just makes it hard. And we're not in a position right now offensively to make things hard. That's just a simple fact. We need to do everything we can to stay ahead of the sticks so that we can play football and get the run game going and get the quick game going. And when you pick and choose to take a shot, you got to protect so that you can hit that shot. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how this thing goes.
Dan Wiederer.
Matt, you guys converted the fake punt. What required the timeout immediately afterwards?
Yeah, we were just we had, when you have a change of possession like that, there's a communication, just making sure guys are on the special teams and the wide receivers that are coming in and out. And we had a play where we had a substitution with a wide receiver that was just a little bit off there. And I wanted to make sure that we were perfect. I didn't want to do what happened last week where we had a 5-yard penalty, and we just, and so that happens. That probably happens across the league more than you think. And right now it's just, it's a little magnified just because of, our situation.
And then also, you guys have struggled in short yardage when you need a yard or less sometimes. What is your emotions with that, and just not being able to pick up 2 feet at times?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've I think we've been better of late, and then it's the ones that you don't get, especially the 4th downs. Those are the ones that I think magnify, and they sting, because we really felt like we had some good momentum going there, and then we go back. I got to go back and watch that play. I think our guy, I mean, it's a dive, it's like what we do in youth football. It's a dive. So that's that.
We have time for 2 more. Jeff Dickerson.
Yeah, man, not to belabor the 4th down stuff, but I think there was that one 4th down where you guys had 2 consecutive penalties. I mean, you had the false start, and then the hands to the face. I mean, just how demoralizing is that to get these consecutive penalties in these just absolutely critical moments you got to have?
Right. And I think that's probably where, JJ, like to your last question for me, stuff like that Jeff just talked about, those are the ones that they probably magnified a little bit when you have back-to-back penalties in that situation, and you got momentum going, you got a lot of good things going, and then you have that happen. And so I'll never, ever, ever question my guys' effort. Never. I'll never do that. None of it's because of effort, but whatever it is, it's got to stop. And those are ones there that we just got to get better at, because we got to get like just little chunks here or there, and then pick and choose when we go ahead and take our shots. And we just can't get in that situation. Now, there was a few in there where we did get backed up, and Nick made a strong throw, and we made a good catch on the dagger route. There were some plays in there where we did recover. I would like to see us be better in that big red zone area, to be, when you get down there, to be able to get an opportunity to score. And we weren't today. And that's probably the most frustrating part of it all, is that right there. And again, it's not because the guys don't care.
Last one, Mike Berman.
Matt, when you're grasping for anything positive, do you look, are you glad that you guys score late, that you make it a close game, or does that, in your mind, does that really not matter?
It's probably both. I'd say I do think when you have a position where our guys fought to the very end, and that's kind of who the guys are that we have in this locker room. They care. Their care factor's high. That's why I'll never, ever question their effort or their care. That part I love. But what we have to understand as a mature football team is that you have to score points early in this league. And then you also have to score points early in this league with the defense that we have, right? So when you don't do that, you just get to a point where you have those touchdowns at the end. You're happy that you kept fighting, but you can't be enough.
You've talked for weeks now about how, you keep working at this in practice, keep working at it, and it'll get better. At what point do you wonder whether it's time to change something, after putting together weeks where the offense doesn't seem to be showing improvement?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's what we've been working towards. And, if I had that answer, we probably wouldn't be here. So, I mean, the only thing I can say is we have to continue to keep working. I don't know what y'all expect me to say, but other than I believe that we have to keep working at it and keep grinding and keep figuring out what we want to do, how we want to do it. And that's the only way to be, because quite frankly, like, we're the ones in it. Like, we're the ones that are playing for the Chicago Bears, coaching for the Chicago Bears. So it's our responsibility to continue to work through this adversity, and figure out what it's going to take to complete our team in our situation. And we have the right people to do it. We just have to keep grinding, keep doing it, and staying positive throughout it. And we have the right people.
Jason Leisure.
Nick, what is it like in the middle of it when it seems to just keep getting worse?
It's one of those things where you just keep going. You get the play call, you execute the play call, and you just keep going. Keeping the guys settled in the huddle. The guys were great. Just continue. Hey, one play at a time. Keep going. Don't stop playing until the clock hits zero. And today, obviously, we fell short. Another tough game, but the guys kept playing until the clock hit zero. And not an easy one, but there's something that you can build on there, because it's when you don't quit and you keep going, you keep grinding, especially through games like that are difficult. It tells you a lot about your locker room.
Brad Biggs.
Nick, without being able to watch the film, totally makeshift offensive line. Looked like you were under pressure some there, but how did you feel a group that's just kind of thrown together did for you today?
You know what? They played as hard as they could, and they gave me everything they had, and that's all I can ever ask of them. So, I mean, you go out there, you play together as an offense, and you give it everything you have until the end, and they did that. So I'm proud of them for that.
Colleen Kane.
Hey, Nick, I know we've talked to you before about your guys' third quarter struggles this season, but how frustrating were the first two drives of the third today when you guys got some positive plays, got into Titans territory, and then mistakes kind of killed the drives?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that keeps coming up, and we just have to fix that. I don't know what that is. It's something we got to look at when we study the film and talk through it. But to win in this league, you got to eliminate those self-inflicted wounds, especially when you can, march down there. So once again, something else to continue to look at.
Dan Wiederer.
Nick, specifically when you have a pair of 4th and 1s go haywire, one that gets stuffed in the backfield, the other one blown up by a false start, what's your reaction? Because those aren't new occurrences either.
Same thing. I mean, obviously you don't want it to happen. But the game goes on. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, it's 4th and 1. It's happened again. Let's just stop playing. No, you keep playing. You keep staying positive on the sideline. You just keep going. You keep talking through it. That's what this game is. As much as we would love to win every Sunday and have it, like, there's a lot of teams that don't do that. And, you know, right now we're in a situation where we're figuring out who we are and who we want to be. And it can be difficult, but I'll tell you this, like, the guys in the locker room after the game, their mindsets are about the team, about each other, about continuing to work for one another. And even with the hard loss in a couple, 3 in a row, we continue to stay positive. And that is something we can continue to build on. And we keep working. We keep working. We keep working. We keep grinding. We keep staying positive.
JJ?
Nick, you talked about those self-inflicted mistakes. Where does the fix for that have to come from? Does it have to be, you know, a couple guys on the offense challenging everyone to stop making those mistakes? Does it have to come from coaching? In your experience, where do those fixes come from?
You know what, that's something where we got to look at the film and this talk, you know, coaches and players, and figure it out. I don't have that answer for you. But I will say when we clean that up, it'll really help us in those situations, because we'll be able to keep the chains moving and have another set of down. So that'll be a big emphasis for us.
Mike Berman?
Nick, no one's going to question the fact that you guys are trying to get this thing fixed, but how would you describe what the urgency level has to be to figure it out just at this point in the season, being where you are in the standings?
Yeah, I mean, it's always been the same, extremely urgent. You don't want to go through the season just hoping you figure it out. I mean, we've continued to figure it out week by week by week, and we've made little changes and we've worked through different things, and we've done some good things at times. We just haven't put that complete game together. But the urgency's always been there, and it's not, you know, we don't just wait till the end of the season to figure it out. We're working through it every single week, and we're continuing to stay positive and working with one another. I'll sound like a broken record, but that's the only way I believe is staying positive, keeping, you know, a tight ship, and working through this together. Because listen, it's not easy. Anything worthwhile is very difficult, but it takes the right people to get it done. We believe we have the right people. We just have to keep working and keep grinding and put it together. And then I look forward to that conversation with y'all when we do.
Couple more for Nick. Kevin Fishbane?
Hey, Nick, that first drive looked like you guys were, you know, moving the ball pretty well. What did you like about that script and kind of the preparation for it? And then what does it do to you kind of mentality-wise when it just all that progress just kind of stops there at 4th and 1?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to, you know, show different personnel, show different looks, get a couple movement plays out there, and execute well. We had the big one to Jimmy on the left sideline. He made a great play, you know, catching the ball and going up. And, 4th and 1, we got to get those.
Jason Leisure?
Nick, what do you think about having traveled here with a teammate who tested positive, and now all of you guys traveling home together today?
Yeah, I mean, the NFL is doing everything they can to keep us safe. So I honestly, I trust our protocols. I trust, our staff here to do everything the right way. This year, as y'all witnessed, every single person has been affected this year by what's going on in the world. But it goes back to, you know what, the NFL and our team specifically too, is going above and beyond, doing everything they can to keep everybody safe. So I trust them in these situations.
Last one, Dan Wiederer.
Nick, you had a red zone opportunity to A-Rob on a little shovel pass that kind of got blown up. What was your vantage point on not being able to get that cleanly executed there?
Yeah, they did a nice job of, blowing back into it and sort of jamming up the play. It would have been a sweet touchdown for A-Rob, and then I was just doing what I could to get the yardage back. It was unfortunate. We'll watch the film and see how we can execute it better in the future.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, thank you all. You have a good evening.
Yeah. Hey, Danny. It seems like the focus, at least around 3 weeks ago when you all were only 5-1, was to focus on the positives and not let the negatives overtake you all. With you all on the 3-game slid, how do you all keep the morale while also trying to use the negatives to learn from them?
It's a long season, man. Everything didn't work out the way we planned. That's evidence out there. But we know that we have a strong group, and we have to keep fighting. We all can play a little bit better in our mindsets. But that was the main goal. Guys coming here, we know it looks really bad to the outside world, and it's not what we want, and that's not what type of team we are. But the goal is to get better and to keep stacking up these days. You know, it's like we talked about. The team that comes out the healthiest and fights its adversity is going to come out victorious in the end of the season.
Mark Potash.
Danny, I think they only had I think Tennessee only had like 228 yards. It just seemed like the defense played well enough to win. And I know you did give up some points, but just how frustrating is it? This is not the first time to play well enough to win and not win.
Yeah, we know that, it looked like we played well, but, it was a couple plays that we feel like we should have made, myself included. The thing is, we got to get the turnovers. It's a percentage of teams that get turnovers, that adds up to wins versus turnovers and scores, which really adds to wins. So we know in defense, we want to get back to turn the ball over, but I feel like we played well enough to win, but it's never enough with us. We got to be hungry. We got to not allow them to get that many points.
Dan Reader.
Danny, you held the NFL's leading rusher to 68 yards and 21 carries. I think Tannehill only had 156 yards. What were you pleased with today with the way you guys played defensively?
Just coming up in situations. I was proud that everybody was just fighting. That's the kind of character that we have. But at the same time, I know that we all can be better. Like I always put myself in there because I know I can be better in situations. Probably make a turnover here and there. I know they're coming, and I know they're coming. We had a couple of them. I ain't gonna lie, but guys hold that stuff real personal, and they're gonna attack it next week. I'm excited to get back to work with them, but we know that we have a great defense, and we can win any one of our games.
JJ Stankiewicz.
Danny, you were part of a team last year that kind of went through something similar with the defense playing well, the offense maybe not on a 4-game losing streak. Does this feel at all similar to you now that this losing streak's up to 3 games?
Every year is different, man. Every year is different. I try not to, piggyback off last year and previous years and all this and that. But what I would say is that we're a growing team, right? We had a lot of stuff that popped up, a lot of injuries, a lot of situations with COVID and all this and that. That's not an excuse, that's facts. And we have to be able to rise above all of that. Put that stuff aside, excuse me. Put that stuff aside and let's go out here and execute football. Put together 4 quarters. That was my thing today. I wanted to see us play 4 quarters all the way.
Adam Jones.
Danny, as one of the defensive leaders, what can you do? What can you say? What can guys like you and Akeem and Khalil say when some of the offensive frustrations are building? Like, how do you prevent that from seeping over to your side of the ball?
Us being better. A lot of guys get mad. Some people nitpick at little things like we should have had this, we should have had that. We don't panic. We don't flinch. All we can do is continue to make ourselves better and be better in situations and be that defense that I know we can. We didn't get the turnovers like we know we should have and we will. And we all took accountability for our own selves. We all want to play better. I definitely want to play better. I feel like we're getting better every week. We gotta go ahead and stack them together.
All right, we got time for 2 more. We'll go Dan Weeder and Joel Lewis.
Danny, what did you guys do particularly well against Henry? He didn't have a whole lot of room early at all, and you guys seemed to be around him throughout the day.
We just attacked. We knew that they wanted to come out here and run the ball, like they've been doing. He's one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the league. If he get going, it could be a tough game for us. So we want to go ahead and hit him in the mouth and play smash mouth football, like we used to. I feel like we held him to a good standard, but it was one play in particular. That he probably gained like 26, and I think that's what added to it. But I feel like we started well to attack, and it just carried over.
Joe Lewis.
Yeah, Danny, I wanted to go back to your comments about COVID. You said that you all didn't want to use it as an excuse, but with it rampaging over the country and the world and it finally entering in the Bears locker room, does that cause any anxiety or cause you all to lose focus due to it being such a serious thing?
I like to think of it as I said it's not an excuse for us. I said, you know how it's always next man up mentality. And the teams who face adversity well known, take on challenges in this crazy time, in this crazy world, what's going on right now. It's gonna be the team who come out here and get to the Super Bowl. If it wasn't COVID, it'd be something, another situation, adversity, like injuries, like, fires and stuff like that. It's always situations. It's always the team who can get over the adversity, get over, all the odds stacked against them. You know what I'm saying? Like situations, win the games that you're not supposed to win the games you're supposed to win for sure. But it's not an excuse, but it's reality to me. You know what I'm saying? So we can't budge, we can't focus. We gotta be prepared for anything in crazy times like this and stay prayed up and stay masked up.
Yeah, hey Alan, with you all going on this 3-game slid and your offense still has not been able to find any consistency, do you all truly believe that you all can be better than where you are right now, especially after going against a defense that's near the bottom of the league?
Yeah, again, I have to sit back and watch the tape, but again, I thought that it was time we got a field goal range. We knocked ourselves out of field goal range with penalties and things like that. So it felt like whenever we had some momentum going, whenever we got the ball rolling, we just couldn't get over the hump. Whether that was we couldn't convert on fourth down, we couldn't convert on third and short. So again, we just got to be better.
JJ Stankovitz.
Ellen, how do you view yourself as a veteran on this team, as someone who can try to challenge your teammates on some of these little details that are happening, whether it's, getting an extra yard here or there or some of the penalties that have been happening?
Yeah, again, I definitely, have to continue to talk to the guys. I feel like that's something that we've been addressing as just all vets, including myself, I look back at the game, again, whatever I'm doing is clearly not enough either. So, I gotta figure out a way to do more, again, even back at last week, this week, whatever that is, I got to assess the film myself, and I got to be better personally, and then I got to figure out, how we can help everybody else around us be better as well.
Jason Leisure.
Alan, are you concerned that a player who traveled down with you guys ended up testing positive, and now you guys are all about to travel back to Chicago together?
Yeah, that is a huge concern. I know when you see stuff like that, when you win, it's definitely not the best feeling at all. Again, being on the plane, being around that person, for however long or whoever was around them, and then just being around each other, that's definitely something to think about. Just from talking to guys on the team, that's something that guys have talked about. It is a cause of concern.
Dan Weeder.
Hey, Robin, the second half when you guys got down in the red zone, what was your vantage point on the shovel pass that you guys weren't able to execute because it kind of got pushed in a little bit?
Yeah, we actually got some penetration on that right side. We just weren't able to execute the play. Again, for whatever reason, again, whatever defensive player that was, he came into the field pretty hard, and disrupted the play.
Kevin Fishman.
Hey, Alan, on that first drive, the third down, did you think that you had reached out for the sticks? And then what kind of did it do for you guys? Because you had such a productive drive, and then obviously got from 4th and 1. What do you think the impact of that was?
Yeah, it was tough. Again, for me, as a player, when I'm coming out, obviously, the easy thing to say is to go up another yard. But once I came out on my out route, I saw the cover 2 corner. He didn't play it as hard as I thought he was going to play it. So in hindsight, that's why as soon as I got the ball, I tried to jump up the field because I thought it was cover 2. So as soon as it was cover 2. So as soon as I caught the ball, even then I was just trying to, dive up the field and possibly get the first. We were into the boundary. Again, we weren't really expecting cover 2 in that situation. But once I came out and I saw Malcolm Butler in the flat, for cover 2, I just tried to come flat, secure the ball, and then get up the field. So it's just one of those plays where maybe I possibly could have tried to buy just a little more time to inbounds to be able to stretch it out. But again, with that cover 2 corner, I thought just catching the ball and stretching out, I thought I had got it, but the rest of it I was a little short.
Andy Sligman.
Alan, where's your frustration level at in general with the way this offense is performing?
I think everybody's frustrated. Again, myself included. Again, when I look back at games today, I think that for me, whenever I have frustration on the sideline and things like that, it's typically with myself. Because I'm always trying to figure out how can I do more? How can I do more? Whenever we're in the situation, as we've been over these past few weeks, and with this offense, I look at myself. And figure out how can I create more explosive plays? How can I convert a little bit better here? How can I keep the drive going? How can I get over here? So first and foremost, I'm looking at myself. Because that's where my initial frustration always lies. If I'm a part of something that's not having the success that it wants. But then other than that, again, I can't get too frustrated at all. I just got to continue to try to work with the coaches, work with our teammates, and try to keep building and try to get better. But, like I said before, I'm gonna look back on the film and figure out first and foremost, how can I be better? How can I help this team create more explosive? How can I help this team get in the end zone more? How can I do my job, that much more better? And then after that, see what my teammates and coaches.
All right, we got two more from Joe Lewis and Dan Weeder.
Yeah, Alan, you still rank among the league leaders in receiving yards so far. So even though you are still playing at near or above expectations, you still carry that frustration with you?
Definitely, man. Again, I'm a person who I feel like I can put, I could bear a lot. So again, whatever that is, like I said before, I'm gonna assess that. I know what the numbers and what the stats say, but at the end of the day, for this thing to get pushed forward, I personally feel like, again, it's gonna have to start with me. Again, being able to light that flame. If that's a thing that's explosive, if that's big plays, if that's getting in the end zone or whatever, it's gotta be. I'm gonna look in the mirror first, and after that, then we can figure everything out. Again, like I said before, work with my teammates, work with my coaches, how we can figure it out. But again, for me, I'm gonna look in the mirror first. I'm gonna assess this film, assess some of the other film, going into this next week to figure out how I can be better and how I can lead this team in the right direction.
Dan Weeder.
Alan, what's the difficulty of adjusting offensively to sort of account for an offensive line that hasn't played together before and now guys who haven't played at all, and just trying to figure out what you can and can't do going into a game like this?
Yeah, again, that's also something, again, trying to figure out what you can and can't do, again, you would like to do, everything that you want to do, to take advantage of some of the weak points or the scheme of the defense, but at the same time, whatever that may be as far as coaching, I know they're trying to figure out, what they have a good feel for, what we rep the most as a group and stuff like that, so it is some moving parts, but at the end of the day, this is the NFL, things happen, unfortunately players do get hurt, and certain situations come up, so, but at the end of the day, we got to figure out how we can play our game, how we can be the best at what we do, and try to maximize our opportunity. Unfortunately, we dropped 3 in a row, but at the end of the day, we still got a lot of football ahead of us. We got 7 games left. We got to put our foot on the gas and keep it going.
How do you deal with being deep into November for a second straight year, still trying to find an offensive identity?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of where we at. For myself personally, I don't have too many answers on that. I just try to run what's called and again, make best of my opportunities. That's all I can kind of do. That's why I said for me, looking forward, I'm gonna look in the mirror first and figure out what can I do to help this offense be better. And how can I be better myself? Again, and whatever that is, I'm my harshest critic. And I want to make every single play. So whatever that may be, whatever that may look like, again, I'm gonna look in the mirror first. And I feel like I can help get this thing turned around and help lead this offense in the right direction.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest sports show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chilling with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Riles and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles.
Marvelous! Welcome everyone to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're streaming live on Facebook, broadcasting from the world's famous studios of WCPT in the greatest city in the world, that of course Chicago, Illinois, in one of the fabulous neighborhoods, Jefferson Park on the city's north side. This is another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. It is the fastest hour in sports conversation, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jerry Riles, and of course, thanks to the 17th letter of the alphabet, Q, Quentin Demps. He'll be joining us shortly to talk about this Bears debacle. But that's Q, multi-talented. Of course, he played 10 years in the National Football League, 7 years with the Chicago Bears. But his side gig, his side hustle, his side hobby, he's pretty good with the music and rapping and everything. That was Quentin Demps. Get a chance to talk to him. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, in that song, you heard Marvelous. And of course, because he is the one, he's the only, he's the marvelous one, he's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver? How are you?
Hi, Jerry. I'm the 13th letter of the alphabet. You know, our mayor called the Bears offense pedestrian.
Oh, she did?
I call it nauseating. And you know what's even worse?
What's that?
The next two games will be in prime time, so people have just eaten their dinners before the games against the Vikings and Packers.
Oh my goodness! Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Monday night, the Bears.
Monday night and then Sunday night.
Yeah.
Well, really, it was like unbelievable the first half. It was like I couldn't believe that they were so inept. And
why couldn't you believe it?
I mean, because they were even more inept than usual.
It was a very challenging game to watch as a spectator, as a fan,
yeah, you went to
even as a
leaves.
broadcaster. Yeah, it was very, very challenging to watch this football game regarding the Chicago Bears taking on the Tennessee Titans down in Nashville, Tennessee. It was tough.
With fans, they had too. It looked like.
Yeah, they had fans in there, and hopefully they had the beer vendors out there, because I'm sure a lot of people, definitely here in the Chicagoland area, consumed a lot of ice cold beverages. And you're right, Marvelous. It got so bad that I actually had to take some time away from the game, which normally I don't do. Normally, it's very rare and very seldom that I walk away from a game. Especially Chicago, regardless if it's, the Bears, the Bulls, the Blackhawks, Sox, Cubs. I typically don't walk away. But I had to walk away from this one. I went out. It's a beautiful day in the greatest city in the world, Chicago, in the Midwest area, and I had to go out and rake the leaves, brother.
I know. I texted you after it went 17 zip.
Yeah, we can't read what you said in your text.
No, I left
Not on the air, at least.
I put the hyphens in.
We want to hear from you. 773-763-9278. 773-763-WCPT. Lauren Cox is on assignment, as they say. Hopefully she'll be in studios next week. And again, we will get an opportunity to talk to Quentin Demps, 10-year veteran, former Chicago Bear. He will be joining us in our TR60 hotline to break this thing down. And of course, you love him. Number 51 in the program. He's number one in your heart. Bruce Heron, outside linebacker, 5 years with your beloved Chicago Bears. Back in the day, played with the beloved, may he rest in peace, the late, great Walter Payton. Bruce Heron will be joining us, and I'm eager to hear what Bruce has to say regarding this. You know what, Marvelous?
Yes.
This was a very difficult football game to watch, no question about it.
Amen.
And the two things that continue to ring out in my head. Two things continue to ring out in my head. Matt Nagy kept saying, "Hey, let's enjoy it. We're 5-2. Hey, let's enjoy it. We're 5-3." Well, Matt Nagy, now you are 5-4. Now you are 5-4. And the other thing that kept ringing in my head,
yes,
And I told him, stop doing it. Just stop it. It's nonsense. Just stop it. Act like you've been there before. The damn club dub.
Yeah.
Club dub. I guarantee you, Marvelous, they're not doing club dub today, buddy.
Nope.
No club dub on the plane heading back to Chicago. Cut it out. It's ridiculous. 3 straight losses. And I was the guy that put my neck on the chopping block for this team and said, hey, I believe this team can go. They can win the 3 games. I thought they could maintain a good stretch. Now, granted, coronavirus snuck his head in there, and they closed down Hallis Hall on Thursday, but they opened it back up. The National Football League said they're up to snuff. They meted the protocol, but they closed down Hallis Hall because players tested positive for COVID. So that's one reason. A main reason we had a depleted offensive line. And, of course, we see the debacle that we witnessed 24-17. The Bears fall to the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I knowing that the offensive line is a problem, I thought they might go outside the organization with the trade deadline being last Tuesday to address that, but they did not, surprisingly, to me.
Why is that surprising?
Well, I mean, because it's an obvious need, and they're teams that were sellers. I mean, right now, in fact, we're playing each of these teams. Houston and Jacksonville broke the tie for last place in the AFC South. Houston won. They have 2 wins, and Jacksonville has 1.
Right.
So, I mean, there are sellers out there, and I was reading some of the wires that said that they were interested in parting with some offensive line. Would you have to give up too much? Maybe a draft pick. I don't know what, but maybe Trubisky.
Oh, jeez. Well, and it's interesting. The guy we just learned this past week that he hurt his shoulder
on the Wildcat play.
On the Wildcat play, one play against the New Orleans Saints,
and that was a planned play. We thought maybe it was because a helmet issue or something, a mechanical issue that they needed to put him in for one play, but that was a planned play.
Yeah, mechanical is right.
Yeah.
Malfunctioning mechanically. It was ridiculous. It's terrible. And, of course, Mr. Trubisky is the center focus regarding that situation. But as far as the Bears are concerned, and you're absolutely right, you got to do what you got to do. But in defense of Matt Nagy,
yes.
I kind of feel for the man. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel for him. Because this is the hand that he's dealt with. This is the hand that Matt Nagy has been dealt.
Coach, do you feel like with 3 straight division games coming up that you guys have to right this ship almost immediately, or the season could head the wrong direction?
Yeah, no, we got to. I don't know if you can see me the deal here. We do got to right the ship, and we just got to do it by getting 1 win. So we got to be able to. Whatever that is, by any measures, find a way to do it. And I think our guys will do that. I think that they understand where we're at. Again, unfortunately, last year we were in this mode and we lost 4 in a row, and it's hard. It is hard. Yeah, so, obviously a high level of frustration. Anytime you lose 3 games in a row, you feel that way. And we didn't do enough offensively to get the job done. I thought our defense played really, really well. I mean, they're doing everything that we're asking them to do and trying to get that field position going. Special teams play well, and then just recurring theme here on offense. So that starts with me, and we got to get it better.
Yeah, see, I feel for Matt Nagy because his hands are tied. I mean, he's doing everything. The defense played outstanding.
Always.
I mean, they're the ones that are keeping this team in the games.
Absolutely.
This defense, and holy moly! I mean, Kyle Fuller is playing lights off this year. He's playing lights out. He's on pace to become another Pro Bowler at the end of the season if he continues at the pace that he's playing. But and that pick 6, it was right there for him. Right. It was right there for him, and unfortunately, he got a hand on it, but he wasn't able to get both paws on it, and he had nothing but pay dirt in front of him early in the game. The defense, they're doing everything they possibly freaking can to keep this football team in these games. And, of course, Sierra Santos, or what's his name? What's his name? Sierra Santos?
Not Sierra. It is the brother. Cairo.
Cairo. He's what is he, 12 of 12 now as far as field goals are concerned? Yeah. Special teams. They're doing their job. Offensively is the problem. And I feel for Matt Nagy because as much as he wants to call the plays that he feels that are designed to work, he simply does not have the personnel.
No, I mean, he finally brought Brian Knoll out of wraps. He had to when Montgomery was sidelined for protocol for concussion. But Montgomery had 14 carries, 30 yards. It's 2.1. It's the same pattern. There's no ability to have a running game, which opens up everything else.
Now, granted, this offensive line that the Bears had to plug in there, they didn't even get an opportunity to practice this week. Again, the facilities were closed up at Hallis on Thursday, I believe, and they're just picking guys from the trees anywhere they can to plug in places just to have a starting offensive front up there. And unfortunately, these guys, they were beside themselves. I think you, me, Devin Tingle, Nick back here, Paul Shivari, I think we would have done at least a better job as offensive line for the Chicago Bears. And here's the deal.
I'd be in my backside. But
no, it's okay. It's okay. You would have been doing better than those guys, believe me. But here's the deal. Listen, they're not as talented. The Bears are the worst in the league. They're not as talented. They are not as talented. And here's the deal. When you lack talent, this is what I used to do. When I started getting older in age, right, and I was playing basketball, and I saw the younger whippersnappers running around me on the court, right, I would say, damn, this guy's fast. He's quick. He's this and that. So what I would do, this is simple. You just, when a little guy is running past you, you kind of tug on the shirt and pull him to slow him down a little bit, or you cut your angle and give him a little bump to slow him down to try to prevent him from taking advantage of you and exploiting you. That's what I think the Bears' offensive line need to do. Just technique.
Right.
Fundamentals, get back to the basics. Fundamentals, technique, your footwork, your hands, your angles, and then take a little pride in what you're doing. Say, this guy's kicking my ass left and right. It's not going to happen anymore. That's all you have to do, and just stick with it for 60 minutes. For some reason, it's not sinking in, Marvelous.
Yeah, well, you watch a lot of other teams, and you see that there's some things that might be called holding that aren't called. So you might as well
here's
work
the deal.
within the rules, if you can.
Listen. They've already taken the exception to the next level as far as penalties are concerned.
Right.
The most penalized team in the National Football League. They show that they can pick up some penalties. They no question about that.
Okay.
But listen, if you're out there, and I get it, and you need help sometimes, you do need. And I've never played line or any part in the National Football League. Our Nets Gex has, and he will tell us. But to me, man, you getting your ass kicked, you got to find a way to slow it down or stop it. And basic fundamentals, your footwork, your angles, your hands. I'm not, because they've already penalized 116,000 times this season, and we don't need that anymore. But evidently, it's getting to that point. And I point the finger at the coaching staff. Again, I feel for Matt Nagy, but some of these things that are happening in the football games, you gotta iron it out. And I get tired of hearing it. Well, we gotta watch film. Yes, I'm tired of the film deal. Because evidently, I don't know, maybe you guys are watching Charlie Brown and the Peanuts and the Great Pumpkin. Maybe you're watching Donald Duck. Maybe you're watching the Flintstones. I don't know what kind of film you're watching, because you're not watching the same film that we're watching on Sunday afternoon when we see you guys getting your ass kicked up and down the football field. Because if you guys were watching the same film that we're watching during the live coverage of it, you would say, hey, wait a minute. This shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. These guys should do this. These guys should do that. And then you get out on the frickin' football field and you do a walkthrough, and then you go, okay, let's go half speed. But it's conditioning. And you shouldn't have all these penalties. You shouldn't. And this isn't the first game that this has happened in. This isn't the first season that this has happened in. This has been happening repeatedly for the past 2.5 years. So to me, it comes down to the coaching staff. It comes down to the coaching staff. And I understand the players have a role to play in this as well. I understand that the players have to execute the plays that are put in front of them. But if they're not doing it, as a coach, you got to say, wait a minute, numbskull, knucklehead, listen, get your hands up, move your feet, get this done, and do that. Or you're going to be on the bench, or you're going to get a pink slip, and you're going to be out of here.
Yeah,
it's simple.
Well, today they only had 5 penalties for 35 yards. Maybe they should try harder and push the envelope.
Folks, we go out to the DR60 hotline. I love this guy. He is fantastic. He's a part of the Rewind Sports 60 family. He's a former Chicago Bear, 10-year veteran, former 10-year veteran in the National Football League, known as the 17th letter in the alphabet. He's on our TR60 hotline. Q, Quentin Demps joining us. Q, what's up, man? How are you?
Jerry, what's good? What's up, Marvelous?
Hey, how you doing? You're quite a rapper. I didn't know that. Are you gonna be on get some awards for this?
I don't know, man. I just create music.
Okay.
Very good music. You lead in. You open up the show, brother. So good stuff, good work, and keep it up. And we're looking for some more stuff. Before we get into the Bear game, who's the other cat on the soundtrack with you?
Oh, a guy named Mac Buddy.
Mac Buddy. So Mac Buddy, does he? Let me say this because my good friend Dr. Gerard McClendon's been wanting me to ask you this for quite some time. Does he say sports is the only politic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sports is the only politics, Marvelous.
Really?
Marvelous doesn't want to really talk about politics right now.
Let's talk. I don't care. What do you want to talk? What do you want to know?
No, it's very. We want to know if the dude that just lost, if he's gonna, barricade himself in the White House. But that's another time for another show.
Right.
But yeah, hey man, great stuff. But as far as this Bears debacle is concerned, they fall 24-17, and now they're 5-4, and right now they're looking up as far as trying to get in the playoff race. What is your assessment from what you were able to witness earlier this afternoon down in Tennessee?
Jerry, I'm a defensive guy, man. So I'm going, man. I think it's back to the fundamentals, like you said, man. We did a poor job of tackling, man. We gave up too many big plays, man, when we needed the stops the most, man. And my guy Eddie Jackson had a bad day. It just wasn't a good day for him. The offense is going to be the offense, man. They're going to be inconsistent. But on the defensive side, we got to be consistent every game. Like we can't give up big plays like that, man. We know what kind of offense we got, so we got to keep the big plays off of us, especially if they come from tackling, like missing tackles. Like we got to just tackle a few times, man, and minimize some of those games, man. So I didn't like the way the defense played today.
Yeah, there were a couple plays, Q, that the defense kind of got shook up. I think it was the big play A.J. Brown that made for the touchdown. That was a huge play, but I think he also had another catch, and it was a 38-yard gain, I believe it was. But the fact is, when he made the reception, he picked up, I think, an additional 23 yards on the play, and he juked. He juked half the defense. I think Kyle Fuller was over there. I think your boy Eddie Jackson got juked out of his jockstrap. I was like, damn.
I mean, he had 4 receptions for 101 yards.
Yeah. I mean, he go ahead.
Like, because say what you want about the offense, they scored 17 points in the fourth quarter, Jerry.
That is true.
17 points in the fourth quarter, man. So on defense, if we stop them like at least twice, 2 of those touchdowns, we might win the game.
Well,
if we tackle a little bit better, we might win the game. It won't be 7 points; it'll be 3 points instead of. If we tackle a little bit better. So I see it like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think we played really good on defense.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that Danny Trevathan and Kyle Fuller and Khalil Mack and Akeem Hicks, all those guys are saying on the plane ride back, they're looking at each other and say, "Hey, man, we understand what our offense is like, and we know that they're behind the 8 ball, and we got to try to bail them out. We didn't play as effective as a unit that we're capable of playing." Is that kind of the conversation you would suspect that they're having now?
Not at all.
What kind of conversation are they having?
We need some help.
The defense. I'm talking about the defense.
Yeah, I know. We need some help, but again, this is me. This is my perspective. I feel like the defense, should be more about themselves versus like. I'm not saying they point a finger. I'm just saying, like, I'm sure the guys that are in the trenches feel like, if the offense give us a little bit more, we'd be fine. But I'm on the outside looking in. What I see is like, bro, the fundamentals, man, just tackle. And you guys just tackle and keep the big plays up off you, man. You guys would like it'll be 17-17 before we know it.
The backbreaker.
That's just how I feel.
Yeah, I think the backbreaker was the fumble recovery. Honestly, that made it 17-0. That where they were in Titans territory and they gave the ball up and it went the other way for 63 yards. Desmond King the second.
Mm-hmm.
That was when it was time to rake leaves.
Oh, jeez. So Q, are you saying basically not that they need help on the defensive side of the ball, they need help as a whole team, meaning that the offense has to supply some type of support, some type of help to pick up their phase of the 3-phase game that's being played. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, but Chicago Bears are known for defense, man. We can't sit around and just be like, oh, with offense got to do better. We got to be the shutdown defense. We know we are. Like we gotta be that every week. There's no except we can't be inconsistent. They can be. That's just because that's gonna be them. We got to be dominant every week.
We're on with Quentin Demp, former Chicago Bear on our TR60 hotline, former 10-year veteran of the National Football League, talking Bears fall to the Tennessee Titans by a final score of 24-17. Their third straight loss, looking up with the 5-4 slate in the NFC North. How long, Q, before the defense? I mean, because here's the deal, and I hate this phrase, but it's true. These professional athletes are human too, right? I hate when I hear that phrase, but it is true. At what point during the season, man, do these guys on the defensive side of the ball start looking side-eye, whether it's at Nick Foles, whether it's at the offensive line, whether it's the coaching staff, because, these guys they're playing their asses off. They really are. I mean, and Akeem Hicks is balling out there. Khalil Mack got the Tannehill, a couple times. I even think that they missed a late hit that Khalil Mack put on Tannehill. At what point in time during the season, if this thing continues to snowball, does the defense start looking at these guys and say, hey, man, what can we do? What else can we do?
Right around Thanksgiving, to be honest with you. Right around Thanksgiving. If something don't start, if you lose division games like this, it's gonna be some smoke in the city. It's gonna start. It won't be because they got a good locker room, so it won't be blatant, but it's gonna, you'll start to feel the tension on the sides. It'd be like, bro, come on now, y'all. It's getting too late in the season, it's still kind of early. There's a lot of football left, but right around Thanksgiving, man, you gotta, we gotta know who we are. We gotta know how we're gonna win these games. We can't be still guessing on what it's gonna be.
And you know what? You bring up a great point, because the big question mark as far as this 2020 team is concerned is the fact that many of us don't see an identity with this football team. What do you have to say about that? Because, and you're right, Chicago's known as defense. It's a black and blue division, and what we grew up with, and, defense is king. What type of team do you see this being, the identity that they have? Or do they even have one yet?
I don't know what kind of offense it is. I don't know if it's run and gun. I don't know if it's, I'm not sure. I think the verdict's still out on the offense. Really, are they going to sling the ball? Are they going to run it? Or what are they going to do? What is it? What kind of offense is it, really? What kind of quarterback do we have? I think the verdict is still out on Foles. Is he going to be inconsistent the whole year? Or, is he going to be that, that consistent guy that we thought he was going to be?
Do you?
Like I said, man, we got to Thanksgiving, man, to really figure out what the Bears are going to be.
No, that's going to be pretty interesting to see, and it's going to be very difficult. Their next game is on Monday night, as the Marvelous said, against the Minnesota Vikings. So they do have some time to try to, right the ship, so to speak. But again, I'm tired of them talking about, hey, man, we're gonna seriously when they're watching film, man. I mean, seriously, it's just talking, bro. Are they watching like the Flintstones or Popeye the Sailor, or what are they watching? Because it can't be the same film that we see on Sunday nights or whatever the case may be, man. What kind of film are they watching when they always talking about, we got to watch the film? What are they watching? Eating popcorn and sucking down Dr. Pepper? What are they doing, bro?
They're just watching more of the details. They're more of the down and distance, more of the, offensive lineman stance, what he gave away, what you saw here, what you thought there, how does that match up to what happened during the week, at practice. Just stuff like that. It's more to it than, play versus play. It's what are the giveaways? What was this hit? What was this? So it's just a lot of the details are being watched. To see what they saw, what you were thinking here, and stuff like that, man. Because like you said, we are humans. So stuff comes up during the game where we're like, oh wow, I see why you did that. I know that may have hurt us, but I see why you did that. That was actually pretty smart.
So, I mean, they would also, Q, I assume, tell them when they did something that wasn't so smart that needs to be corrected.
Right.
And that seems to be the problem. And week after week, the coach is saying, it's on him that the offense isn't working. And you'd think that there'd be some reckoning. Maybe we need a former coach who's in his 70s or 80s. I don't think Ditka's coming back, but he's
No. So, Q, I think the question that a lot of fans are questioning and wondering, and again, the old school cats like myself, because we've seen bad teams here in Chicago over the years, but the one thing that we pride ourselves on is the fact that, and we talk about defensively, that when teams would come into Chicago or they take on the Chicago Bears, they may say, hey, man, we can win this game, but they knew they were going to be in a dogfight, man. I don't know if teams necessarily feel that. What is your perspective?
Yeah, I think so because of the defense that the Bears host.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everybody knows that. They come in here, it's going to be a defensive game. Like, the defense is going to show up. So we got to bring our A game. Everybody knows that when you come to Chicago. I mean, especially with, like you said, the names you said, man. You got Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, Eddie Jackson, Kyle Fuller. Like, people know that you're going to get a fight for sure. It's not going to be no run over for sure.
So the other $1 million question that a lot of Chicago Bear fans are asking, and we're on with Quentin Demps, former Chicago Bear, joining us on our TR60 hotline, is the play calling of Matt Nagy. And again, before we get you on, I said I feel for Coach Nagy because he's just working with the hand that he's been dealt, man. And it's when they say you get lemons, you make lemonade out of it. It's very difficult for him to try to make the lemonade out of what he has. Do you think, in your mind, watching, like we are, that he needs to finally come to grips and say, hey, you know what? I need to turn over the play calling. Because I personally think that Matt Nagy falls in love with his plays, and he draws it up like we used to do back in the day in the dirt or whatever, and say, hey, man, if you do this, if you did that, this play is going to work. But I think he forgets that there are people on the other side of the ball who's going to try to prevent you from making that play work. I think he falls in love too much with his play calling. Do you think we might see sooner rather than later that Matt Nagy is going to turn over the clipboard and say, hey, I'm part of the blame here, I'm part of the problem because my play calls aren't working?
No, he won't do that. And it's still too early. He's got too much pride to do that right now. He definitely won't do that. Like, you know what I mean? Because especially when you score 17 in the fourth, you see the big plays the defense gave up. It's like we almost there. It ain't me. It's just a few more things here and there we can fix. So he won't see it as him being him. He won't blame himself at all. Because like I said, it could have won his game. Like, you know what I mean? A few stops on defense, and I think it's the 17-10 ball game the best.
Well, I mean, it could have been a different outcome. It was a challenging game to watch. Hey, man, you want to take a phone call real quick?
Yeah.
Let's go out to the phone. Tommy's on our TR60 line. Tommy, say hello to Quentin Demps, former Chicago Bear.
First of all, I just want to say hey to Quentin, and I appreciate you, your loyalty, and I am a Chicago fan to the day I die, but facts are pretty much facts. And the fact of the matter is that all you need to know about the Chicago Bear organization is the fact that they passed upon a kid who's two-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, and then you want to now turn around and say the coaching is play calling and stuff, but your plays can only be ran by the kind of talent that you got. And it's not saying that we don't have talent, but come on, guys. At some point, the defense is the only reason why I watch. Because I don't know what the hell is going to happen on the offense. I don't know. I mean, one game I turned off and woke up and they won. I was like, what the hell happened? Did they buy the game? They pay him off? Or is this another move by Trump or what? I mean, I just think at some point that the defense should just take rakes with them and just have it out there. I mean, hell, after 3 quarters, 4th quarter, come on, man. I mean, you the teams that the Bears lost to, being absolutely honest and being serious, the teams that the Bears lost to are the teams that you need to beat if you're going to be at least a contender for the playoffs. And with that, I'll go back. I'll wait till next week. Hell, they sobered me up. I was good and drunk, man.
Hey, Tommy, thank you so very much. We appreciate you picking up the phone and giving us a ring. What do you have to say about that, Q?
No, I mean, he definitely made some valid points. Man. Like I said, man, it's any given Sunday. Like, no matter who out there, no matter if you got the MVP of the whole league or if you got Nick Foles. If you don't come to play on Sunday against whoever you play against, it's gonna show.
Hey man, you want to stick with us real quick, a little bit longer, or you got a break? Q,
wake up.
Yo, yeah, I'm good.
You good? Okay, hang on, man. Hang on. I just want to say to those of you listening, of course, just like Tommy, if you want to jump in, our number is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. Bears fall to the Tennessee Titans 24-17. And, of course, they've dropped their 3rd straight game in a row. The Bears... And thanks to our good friend George Bliss, 2 of 15 on 3rd down today, ranked 31st. The only team worse are the Jets. He also said Matt Nagy stink. I don't necessarily say it's Matt Nagy, but I do believe, Q, that he needs to reconsider as far as the play calling is concerned, because the Bears need to do something, and it's unfortunate. Now, Q, this might not work with you, but this is what I think. This is what I truly believe, and the track record speaks for itself. I truly believe if things continue to go south the way that they're going, as far as this team is concerned, and as far as the win-loss record is concerned, I truly believe that the Bears need to take a serious look at Ryan Pace, the general manager, and if they made a move to say, hey, Ryan, it's just not working out. If George McCaskey told him, say, hey, it's just not working out, man. We need to go in a different direction. I wouldn't be surprised, because Matt Nagy has a winning record here in Chicago. I wouldn't be surprised if Matt Nagy lobbied for himself to be dual general manager, coach of this football team, because I think Matt Nagy feels that he can make better personnel selections, whether it's in the draft or free agency. I think Matt Nagy feels that if he made the selections and the choices to bring in the players that he feels can run his offense, to run the system, I think he feels that he can execute those plays or have those plays executed, and I think he would get the results that he's looking for.
Jerry, doesn't he have input?
I don't know how much input he has.
You're kidding.
But
amazing.
I'm not kidding.
Okay.
I'm not kidding. You think hey, Q,
okay.
You tell us, did Matt Nagy make most of these picks on this roster? In your opinion? Huh?
I don't think so. Well, I don't think so.
No.
I think he made a lot of them, though.
I don't know if I don't know, man. I think he made some of them, but I don't know if he made it to the point where he feels that these. I just don't think that he made some of the selections that were made. Yeah. I think with this kid, this Cole Kmet, I think he had something to say about that. I think that kid Mooney, I think he had something to say about that. But overall, I'm
just thinking of non-sports organizations. From my own experience, that wouldn't make sense that the manager would not have input, and only the general manager would, let's say, in a regular organization.
And I agree with you. I agree with you. But I can't say that I don't think that Matt Nagy, and let's bring in Bruce Herron, who's on our TR60 hotline, because these guys played in the league. Bruce, say hello to Quentin Demps, Q, on our TR60 hotline. Q, say hello to Bruce Herron, former Chicago Bears, number 51 in the roster. He's number 1 in our hearts. Say what's up to each other, fellas.
Hey, Q, how you doing? This is Bruce. Good, man. Good.
Hey, man.
I'm sitting there listening to you guys, man, talking about whether Matt Nagy has any input in the drafting or building of the manpower with the Bears. I tell you one thing: if he doesn't have any input, then the organization is doomed to fail. I mean, you're talking about the head coach. He brought in the system, and he's got to have players to to fill in his system. And if the general manager is actually making all those picks without the input of the head coach, then everything falls on the general manager. And I don't think that's happening. I really don't think that's happening. I just think that it's just. I really think that it's just the talent evaluation is got to be a problem because
Right.
I mean they've got too many players that just don't fit. They just don't fit. Look at the offensive line, man. The offensive line has been, even before the injuries and the COVID interference. I mean, the offensive line was not very good. And it's just how do you go into a season time and time again with an offensive line that just doesn't perform well? It just doesn't make sense to me.
And see, that's the reason why I posed the question, gentlemen, is the fact that and I'm giving Matt Nagy the benefit of the doubt, but I just can't see we know that Ryan Pace is not a very good evaluator as far as talent is concerned. But if you're now saying that Matt Nagy fits in that category as well, like you said, Bruce, it's doomsday as far as this team is concerned, because if you got two guys that can't evaluate talent on the highest level, we're in the worlds of trouble, man.
It's not only the two guys, but it's also the scouting organization. I mean, they've got a scouting team. They've got more than one guy that's doing the scouting of these players, and they sit in the meeting room and they evaluate talent, and and they look at players perform in college and perform with other teams, and they not only their draft picks but also their free agency picks. You just got to wonder. I mean, what the heck is going on in the evaluation room? It's not working. Something's not working.
Q, Quentin Demps, what do you think?
Or is it coaching?
So we let a one quarterback mistake tag Ryan Pace as a bad evaluator.
No, it's not that. That's the most profound one. That's the one that stands out. But you got a tight end that he selected. You got a tight end that he selected in Shaheen, who I don't even know if he's still in the league. Tariq Cohen, that was a blessing in disguise. But I mean, some of the picks, and then to sign these offensive linemen that he signed they're suspect. They are suspect. Robert Massey Jr. Hey, listen, God bless you, but I don't know if he's an all-pro caliber type of offensive lineman. Cody Whitehair, I think he's serviceable. Jay Leno Jr. or Charles Leno Jr., whatever you want to call it, I don't think that he is a Pro Bowl caliber offensive lineman. And so when you talk about the evaluating of talent, and you're going to give these guys contracts, long-term contracts, you're saying to us that, hey, these guys are going to be pulling the sled to get us to the next level, and it seems like that's not happening, bro. That's why people are looking at them and saying your evaluation of talent, because we're not seeing the positive results. We're not seeing the fruit of the labors, bro.
And what about on the defensive side? That's probably where he doesn't have any weaknesses at, because he's got Eddie Jackson, right?
It was a great move.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to evaluate it myself and looking back at it.
The problem, it's just difficult to support the team and watch the team every given Sunday. And thank God, gentlemen, that due to the pandemic and everything that's going on, that we do have Sunday football game. It is good that we do have the National Football League and we can evaluate this and watch all of this. But to me, you can't fool the fans, especially Chicago fans, because we are dedicated, we're loyal, and we know the game. And when we see, this nonsense going on week in and week out, it's suspect, and we get upset, we get frustrated, and we want answers. And right now, it seems like we're not getting the answers that we need.
Jerry.
What's up?
The Bears have got. I mean, you look at the quarterback situation. They spent a first-round draft pick on Trubisky. Trubisky's got. He's a mobile quarterback, but he's not an accurate quarterback. He can't process. It appears that he can't process the defense and make a concerted decision
adjustments
and put the ball where it's supposed to be, in a split second. And that's what you've got to do if you're going to be a quality quarterback. And then on the other hand, you've got a quarterback who can do that, but the problem is that he has no mobility. And and then you compound that with an offensive line that's got all kinds of weaknesses. Man, it's just disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah, he has no time to make his decisions.
Q, what do you say to that? Q.
I don't know, man. I think the big picture is we want to know in the division, right? We're 5-2 in the conference, and we got a big division game coming up on Monday, which is going to, show, we can't. The league is set up to be an 8-8 league anyway, right? We can't get 2 down. I know it's 3 in a row, but we still got to hold on to some hope. Like it's bumps in the road on the way to making the playoffs. It happens. So I think, like I said, man, by the time Thanksgiving come around, we got to see this team, man, hit the stride, though. We got to see the offensive man hit the stride, like seriously.
Well, I hope that's right, and I hope that I hope that Thanksgiving, it's already going to be tough because we won't be able to spend it with our loved ones, and I just hope that by that time, again, Matt Nagy and this offensive line. Now, keep in mind, we got to give them, the benefit of the doubt again that they didn't get this offensive line that's been plugged and play haven't had an opportunity to practice together. So let's hope that this week gives them enough time to get some type of unity, get some type of cohesiveness, and let's see what happens next Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings.
And, Jerry, that's their only game before Thanksgiving because then they have a week off.
Yeah.
So did you guys notice the press conference, the Nagy, that the lights went out? I thought that was quite appropriate.
Yeah.
I think they actually discovered a new weapon, Barcavius Mingo. That was a great secret weapon today. I wanted to mention that.
Yeah, but unfortunately,
that punt, fake punt. Yeah,
I'm not a fan of trick plays because when you have to start running the trick plays, you're desperate. You're certainly desperate. Q, anything else before we let you go, brother?
Nah, I'm good, man. I appreciate it, man. I miss you guys, man. I'm trying to get on next Sunday too.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, let's do it. I mean, the important thing is for us to be the safe and well, and just make sure everybody is good. The family, everybody's okay.
Yeah, everybody's well.
All right, brother. We miss you. We love you, and stay safe. And we'll talk to you next week. We'll do a pregame perspective as far as that Monday night football game against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, Q.
All right, cool, man. I appreciate it, Jeff.
You're the best, brother. Quentin Dempsey on our TR60 hotline. Hey, Bruce, man, it's, again, I don't know if you heard me, go on my rant because I always get on the soapbox, but I said, even though this offensive line didn't get an opportunity to practice this past week, and they really aren't familiar, because it takes in general, and it takes a few games for the line to develop that it's like a dance partner. It takes you a little while before you know how the other guy is going to react and who's going to do what. But when you get into a bind, in my opinion, don't you revert back to the fundamentals and the technique, footwork, handwork, finding the angles and things of that nature to try to at least manage your way through a game when you run into problems?
Yeah, playing offensive line, Jerry, there's a lot going on with offensive line. It's not just the guy blocking the guy that's on him, because the defense they've got all these loops and all sorts of stunts that they're running at you, and so guys have got to trust one another. They've got to develop a rapport with one another. It's usually the center that's calling the blocking assignment at the line. And there's a lot going on. And so when you have starters that go down, and you're plugging in a guy off the practice squad or a second string guy that hasn't played much, then those guys they expect those guys to perform as if they've been playing every snap, but they haven't. And, getting into a game when you haven't played the game is so fast, man. It's so quick, and it doesn't allow guys a chance to think and then respond. You've got to respond and think at the damn near at the same time. And that's how quickly the play takes place. And when guys haven't played at all, you know, it's tough, man. It's tough, especially when you don't have the veterans right next to those guys. Like you got a practice squad guy coming in to guard. You got the tackle who's been there for every game, for every snap, and he can kind of protect the guy and talk to him, you know, while during the snap. But you know, it's just. But you know, when you look at it and as a whole, the offensive line wasn't performing well in the first 2 games of the season.
Right.
You know, and that's what's so puzzling to me. You know, I played the game, man, and you know, playing at that level, I mean, it's a complicated game. It's a quick, fast game. It's, you know, you got guys that are strong and fast. I mean, Jesus Christ, man, and things are happening so quickly. You know, they come out, call a play, and then you know, they get to the line of scrimmage. The defense lines up in one set, and then they're switching, and the linebackers are switching, and your safeties are coming. You know, it's just a lot going on, and they've got to process that stuff really quick. That's why I always say that to play professional football, you've got to be a really smart player.
Right.
You got, you know, one thing to be strong and fast and all that, but if you don't have a brain that can operate on a split second snap, then you know what, you can't play that game. You can't play in that league.
Yeah,
it's a tough league to play in, man.
Hey, man,
and it's fun players to be able to do that.
Well, you know what, and I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of people, you know, don't really convey the message that's really going on out there, because it's first of all, it's definitely a violent sport. There's no question about it, and that's one reason why I love it. And I say it's the greatest sport on the planet, is the fact that, Bruce, in order to play at that level, you have to be very skilled and very talented, but you have to be in top shape physically and mentally, because if you're not top condition and physically and mentally, you have one lapse, and that could be the end of your career. And you've got to practice and prepare yourself week in and week out, because, like you said, any given play, it's a game of inches. And if you make a mistake, if you fall asleep, it can cost you big time, brother.
Well, I agree with that, Bruce and Jerry. Yeah. The intelligence, the good teams seem to make adjustments, and they're able to make them quickly, particularly the leaders of the offense and the defense, where you see them able to see where the opening is in offense and then plug the gap quickly on defense. And I don't see the Bears able to do that.
And that's a good question. That's a good point, Bruce, is the fact that, and I was joking, lightheartedly as far as with Q, what are they watching in film? Because we're lay people, we're the media, we're the fans, and we're watching the game and go, why didn't that knucklehead not pick up the block there? Why did he drop that pass? Or why was that ball intercepted? But playing the game at that level, there are a lot of little things that have taken place on that play, because there's so many things going on. It's organized chaos. So you understand that. But when they're watching the film, man, during the week, like they're going to watch the film of this game, and Nagy said, hey, we got to watch the film. What are they taking away from that film and trying to apply the next week, so that those same mistakes, like the 60-plus penalties that they have to lead the league, won't happen week in and week out? What are they doing in adjusting, doing film study, to better prepare themselves for the game the upcoming week?
What are they doing in film study? Oh, man,
Not enough.
Right. It all depends. It all depends. And here's a scenario. The Bears, like all these NFL teams, they have a system, and they select players, and they select players that they think would fit perfectly in their system and run the types of schemes that they want to run. And then players get there, and you get into a game situation, and things don't click right. and they don't make the right decision. And we as fans, we're looking at it from afar, from a television set, and said, you know what? Why didn't the running back make that cut to the right? There was a hole open there.
Right.
You know, the game is moving so fast. I mean, that running back, he can't see what we can see because we can see it all before it happens. He's got to trust that block is going to be on that linebacker, on the middle linebacker. If the guard's blocking out rather than blocking down, then you know what? That's a whole different problem for this running back. He's got to make a split decision, and that decision that he makes could be right or wrong. Could be right or wrong on any given play. And then if it's a wrong decision, then you know what? It could be a fumble. It could be a 1 yard loss when you got a half a yard to get a first down to keep the clock going. You know, all these things happen, man. There's so many things that happen in a game, and but it's just unfortunate, man. I tell you, I was sick today watching the offense play. I think the defense played one hell of a game. They always do. I mean, some games they don't stop the run when we want them to stop the run. But you know, overall, when you go back and look at the game, the defense they're consistently good. Consistently good. There are a number of teams. 95% of the teams in the league would love to have Bears defense. Even with some of the breakdowns that they have, they would love to have that Bears defense. But the defense can't continue to do the things they do and the offense not carry their load. And that's, you know, I don't know if it's fixable this season. I really don't know if it's fixable this season.
Yeah.
I just hope and pray that, you know, they go back and look at the tape and can actually identify some areas where they really can improve, and then get it fixed, and then come out over the next few games and perform. Because right now, fellas, we're not looking at a playoff. We're looking at we got to take one game at a time and just say, hey, we just got to get better.
Yeah.
Well, as it was, they were the 8th seed and only before today, and only
Right.
7 get in.
Yeah.
So they were on the outside to begin with.
Hey, Bruce, we only got to say one thing, man, before we let you go. We only got to say one thing here.
What's that?
The Bears are what we thought they were. The Bears are what we thought they were. The Bears are what we thought they were.
Yeah, that's all. The Bears are who we thought they were. Hey, Bruce Aaron, you the man. We appreciate you every week, getting an opportunity to talk with you, to break down some Bears football, brother. Hey, the family good? Everybody's good?
Everybody's good, man. And you know what? I want to say one thing before I go. Man, you know what? I can talk about the Bears and their weaknesses and stuff, but that is my team, and I love the Chicago Bears. That's in my blood, man. I'm part of the family.
Well, we love them
you know
too.
what?
We love them too.
Yeah, I know, man. And the reason why we do what we do is because we hate seeing them play bad.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Absolutely.
And then we spend 3.5, 4 hours every week on this football team, and we want to see some better results because we want to be able to support them and cheer them on. Bruce Aaron, you're the best, brother. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next Sunday, man.
All right, bud. Looking forward to it.
He's
Bye-bye.
the best in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Number 51 in the program, number 1 in your heart. He's Bruce Aaron, former Chicago Bear outside linebacker. Closing thoughts, Marvelous?
It was really good to hear from Dennis Green again there with that audio. That brings back memories. But again, we won't have a game to review next Sunday. We'll just be previewing the Minnesota game. But yeah, it should be interesting. Hopefully, they'll be making some adjustments looking at the film.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be making some adjustment. Thanks to the marvelous one, Dan Marver, and of course our esteemed producer, the fabulous one. He is Devin Tingle. Folks, if you miss any portion of the broadcast, obviously we're streaming live on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube, and of course, Comcast Access on Wednesday, 7 p.m. in the northern suburbs, channel 17, channel 19, channel 35 at 7 p.m. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the weather. Get out there and rake some leaves, whatever you have to do. Be safe. We'll talk to you next week. Bears fall to the Tennessee Titans by a final 24-17. Take care, everybody. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Sports Medicine Update. It's a weekly podcast with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and the incomparable, outstanding Dr. Chad Padromas. Doc, how are you?
Doing great, Jerry. How about you? I'm doing fantastic. We've had excellent weather, outstanding weather, and it's projected to go on to the middle part of next week. So in the 70s as far as the temperatures are concerned. So certainly taking advantage of it and getting the walk in and enjoying the beautiful fresh air and the beautiful fall colors of the leaves changing. So all in all, feeling fantastic mentally and physically. How about you?
Ditto. Likewise.
Well, I can say one thing, Doc. One person who may not be feeling too good physically is our own Mr. Trubisky with the Chicago Bears, a backup quarterback who just this week we found out that he re-injured a shoulder that he injured back in 2018. In the game against the New Orleans Saints over at Soldier Field, Mr. Trubisky came in one play, Doc, one play. He was upended for a loss on a third down play, I believe it was. And we found out later this past week that he sustained a shoulder injury. And many of us were scratching our heads on one play. But sure enough, he re-injured a shoulder that, again, he injured back in 2018. Can you tell us, in your perspective, what happened here? Because it's surprising to us. One play and he's injured. He hasn't been out there. Why did this sort of thing? And it didn't seem like it was a freak play. It just seemed like a natural football play, Doc. What happened?
So here's the thing. Football players are prone to three kinds of shoulder injuries. The one he had to his right shoulder in 2018 was an AC joint sprain. So the AC joint isn't the actual shoulder joint. It's a joint between the collarbone and the shoulder blade bone at the top of the shoulder. And when you land on your shoulder, you're prone to get it. So he got that. He missed 2 games, came back. This time he also landed on his right shoulder. I don't know exactly what he did. I know he saw Dr. Al-Atrash in LA that decided he didn't need surgery. So more than likely, there's a good chance that it's his AC joint, or it could just be a bruise or a contusion. I don't think he dislocated it, which would be a whole different kind of a thing. The other thing you can do is tear your labrum, but usually you don't tear your labrum that way. So it may be kind of a recurrence of the other thing, but it's and who knows for him in this scenario, if it's a bad enough one, it might be season ending, but I doubt it is, because if it's a bad enough one, it gets kind of complicated. If it's a bad enough AC joint tear, these days pro athletes usually get surgery, although most regular folks don't. So I think he's played for 4 years. He runs around a lot. The left shoulder injury was far more significant, the dislocation. He had surgery and apparently he's doing okay. I think for a guy that runs around like him, I don't really think it's a big deal. And, it brings up the whole question, well, is he injury prone? Is this a red flag? I mean, it sort of seems like his best future is not with the Bears. But I think that I don't think that injury prone should be one of the reasons why. It brings up the larger question, like, what is an injury prone player, and should this be a red flag? And I'll tell you, it is often the case that people come out of college and they play and they get hurt and they get hurt again. Maybe they get hurt again. Everybody said, oh, they're injury prone. Forget about it. But I will tell you, and I don't have any statistics to back this up, but let's just say that it's often the case, and I want to say I think it's usually the case, that people get hurt maybe repeatedly, but usually they stop getting hurt. And, examples that come to mind, Rex Grossman tore his one ACL, I think it was the other knee or the same one again, I can't remember. And he was, seemed like every year something was happening. But then after those first few years, he was fine. Another example, Kevin White, fascinating player, unfortunate player, great guy by all accounts, very talented. Everybody knows the story. Number 1 pick by the Bears, and 3 separate times he got injured. Poor guy. However, so he just got in the field last night. The 49ers, he signed to their practice squad this year, and they activated him last night. They had some wide receivers injured. He didn't get a ball thrown to him, but he's on the active squad. And so here's the thing. He's been this year and last year, maybe the year before, I'm not sure, didn't get hurt. So after having an injury like every year, bone injuries, like, oh my God, what's wrong with this guy? He hasn't gotten hurt anymore. So I think, Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose still gets dinged up, but he had those 2 unfortunate injuries, and he's he seems to miss time here and there. But so I guess what I'm just saying is this. I think you have to be very careful to label people injury prone. The thought is that if you're loose jointed, it makes you injury prone. But the thing is, people that are really loose jointed usually don't make it to this level a lot of times. So anyway, I feel bad for poor Mitch Trubisky. By all accounts, a wonderful guy. Sure, he's obviously got a future in the NFL, whether or not it's with the Bears. And I think labeling him injury prone probably be a bad rep.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily obvious a future in the National Football for Mitchell Trubisky, but I guess if you suggest that someone will give him an opportunity, one of the other teams around the league, maybe, but for the most part, Mitchell Trubisky is truly, I believe, what you see, what you get. Dr. Chad Padroma's Sports Medicine Update, the weekly podcast. A couple things that come to mind regarding injury-prone players, and you touched on a few, but there are a couple other guys that came to mind when you talk about that, and one that sticks out for me, former Ohio State Buckeye back a few years back, Greg Olden. He was projected to be a number 1 pick coming out of Ohio State, and he never materialized. I don't even know if he got on the court. If he did, it was probably for a game or two, but the reason being are the multiple injuries that kept reoccurring, not only in his collegiate career, but in his pro career, so to speak, whether it was knees or ankles or any combination of that. And he never materialized because he was always physically hurt. And he's the one type of person that you would say, hey, this guy is poor. It's sad because he just seems to be injury prone. I don't know if you recall his physical situation, but players such as that who projected to be outstanding, but injuries continue to become roadblocks and obstacles for them. How do you describe that?
Yeah, you're talking about the 7-foot center, right? Yeah, very talented. So, it's a very good point you bring up. So let me draw a distinction. What happens, and it happens more in basketball, I think, than any other sport. It can happen in football, too. And again, I'm not privy to a lot of inside information, but, maybe going on with Todd Gurley, I'm not sure. If you have a knee and the knee starts to get damaged cartilage and you shed cartilage, that's a case. It isn't even so much a matter of injury prone. It's a matter of just the tire not having enough tread. And particularly in basketball, jumping sport, those people with chronic bad knees, sometimes I'm trying to remember the 2 guard for the Portland Trail Blazers had a fantastic career, like 4 years, and then just couldn't make it anymore. So those kinds of players, I think, once your knees are kind of shot, I don't think usually you get it back. Now, so that's a different thing. Torn ACL, you can come back from that, like Derrick Rose did. His ACL hasn't been any kind of a problem. Some players don't. So what often happens, though, so outside of the knee, it would be unusual for a player. I mean, you don't really hear about players getting chronically bad shoulders and not making it. We talked a few weeks ago about the Bears having 2 people, Anthony Miller being one, Jalen Johnson, the rookie cornerback, being another, that had 2 operations each for shoulder dislocations. First one re-injured, didn't go well, whatever it was, and they're doing fine now. So eventually, it got fixed. So now it depends who you are too. If you're a pitcher, totally different story. If you're a throwing athlete, if you're Maria Sharapova, she had surgery for her shoulder. And generally speaking, if you're a thrower with a bad shoulder that gets operated, you're probably over. So what I'm saying is this: there can be a key joint, like the shoulder for a thrower, the elbow for a thrower, although the most common serious elbow injury out there is the ulnar collateral ligament tear that results in Tommy John surgery. And, kind of amazingly, the recovery rate from that's pretty good. So, there are certain injuries in certain people where you've got a really key joint. And those are basically it. The knee for Ernie Banks, I don't know exactly what he had in his knees. It was a long, long time ago. But Ernie Banks, everybody knows, Hall of Fame, originally all-star shortstop. MVP 2 years in a row. I think 57, 58 for a bad team. It's mind-boggling. But anyway, so he got shifted to first base. So, his knees kind of wore out, not enough to be a shortstop, but good enough to be a first baseman. So I think what I'm saying is that there are certain circumstances that maybe your knees get worn out, can't do what you used to do. Now, if you're a basketball, if Ernie Banks is a basketball player, maybe his career would have been over, if you lose that lift and explosiveness. So it kind of depends on circumstance. But what I'm really saying is the player that gets, Kevin White is probably no better example because I don't remember exactly what they were. His first year, he had a stress fracture of his tibia. I know he suffered a fracture of his scapula, shoulder, and I can't remember what the third one was. But they were different, And so the thought is, does this guy just got a weak body? But he's been pretty much fine. So I think if you've got a particularly disadvantaged joint, Greg Oden with his knee, the other Portland Trailblazer I'm thinking of, it's, that particularly in knee, that's one thing. And once you get attrition of cartilage, the cartilage coats the bone, and once you lose enough of it, then a lot of times it just, doesn't function like it did. And again, if you're a baseball player, maybe not that big a deal like with Ernie Banks, but if you're a basketball player where you need lift, or, where if you're a skilled football guy and you lose time off your 40, so, but I don't think there are too many people out there that get hurt, and then they're just injury prone, forget about it. So I think sometimes, so again, maybe it's an artificial, fine distinction, but a distinction between injury prone in general versus a particular joint that's just kind of trashed.
Hey, real quick, before we transition, I wanted to get back to Mitchell Trubisky and the shoulder injury. And you talked about the AC joint. Can you paint a picture for those who's watching and those who may be listening as far as in the shoulder, where that AC joint is and what's the purpose, how it works for you?
Yeah, well, and in fact, I don't know if you can see too well, but this is, apex of my shoulder. So the AC joint, if you go to the apex of the shoulder and go in a little bit, so it's the top of the shoulder, that halfway visible, right about there, right exactly on the top. And if you feel there's a bump there, and the little bump on the top of your shoulder, it's more visible in some people than others. Right. And if you go, left to right, you can kind of fall off that little bump. So the bump is the end of the collarbone. The collarbone starts, in the midline, attached to the breastbone, goes out here, and then it attaches. So that's the C part of it, the clavicle. The A is the acromion. If you keep going out a little more, there's this other hard bone just outside of it. That's the acromion. That's part of the shoulder blade. So the AC joint is where those two meet. And if you land on your shoulder like this, what happens is that there are ligaments. The collarbones go outward and serve as a strut from your spine, basically, to hold your shoulder blades up. And then your shoulder blades hold your arms up. So if you land right on it like that, hard, the ligaments that hold your shoulder blade up to your collarbone can get ruptured, and that's an AC injury. And it's kind of an interesting injury. So you can sprain it, which is what he must have done, Mitchell Trubisky, in 2018, because he only missed 2 games. So you can sprain it, it's sore and it gets better. But you can also tear the ligament. So when you do that, the collarbone looks like it's popping up in the air. Actually, the collarbone's not popping up. The whole shoulder blade's drooping down. That's a grade 3 separation. So in that case, it looks peculiar. It hurts, and it looks peculiar. And I see patients with it. The first thing they say is, well, geez, doc, how are we going to fix that? The truth of the matter is, maybe a little different for a thrower, but for most regular folks, you don't need to fix it. And I'll tell you, Luke Longley on the Bulls, Australian free spirit, suffered a complete sprain of his AC joint, or so it said in the paper, surfing in Australia. And basically, it looks kind of funny, but you wear a sling and the pain usually goes away. When I was doing my fellowship at Harvard, we were taking care of the New England Patriots, and actually right around that time, not the year that I was there, but Tony Eason, quarterback there, University of Illinois product, everybody remembers. So Tony Eason sustained one of these. Actually, he wasn't treated surgically. He was treated with a sling to hold it up, and the sling resulted in a little nerve palsy. Eventually, it was okay. So the point is that for most regular folks, you just leave it alone and it does fine. You just have a funny-looking bump. For reasons that are not totally clear to me, among my shoulder specialist colleagues, people are now doing surgery on it, and the thought is that if you have a high-demand shoulder, maybe you need to, or you get symptoms. In my experience, I've never operated on one. I've told everybody that I see, leave it alone, it'll get better. A good friend of mine was a former Olympic wrestler and got one of these and came in with a bump, and he goes, "Oh my God, when are we going to fix it?" And I said, it was Pete. I said, "Hey, Pete, leave it alone, it'll be fine." And he goes, "What, you're kidding me, right? I got this big lump, you're going to leave it alone?" I said, "Trust me." So 3 weeks later, he's feeling better. 6 weeks later, he's fine. No issues. So that's the AC joint. And if you grade 1, grade 2, you sprain it, it gets sore, it heals. Grade 3, these days, particularly, if it's the right shoulder of a right-handed thrower, you can make a case for fixing it. But I'll tell you, the surgery to fix it is not benign. There's no good. It's a long story, but the lever arm of your shoulder blade pulling down your clavicle is huge forces. So operations to fix it have a fairly high failure rate. Nobody agrees on how to do it. People put plates and screws and other stuff. So the good news is, if you're a right-handed thrower and you get a complete sprain of it, maybe it's worrisome. But, Luke Longley, I don't know if it was his dominant or non-dominant hand, actually. But he, by all accounts, did just fine with it. So in general, you wait for it to get better and it goes away. There's another thing that's related to it. So that what I talked to you about is an AC separation. It's actually a dislocation of the acromioclavicular joint. It's commonly called a shoulder separation to distinguish it from a shoulder dislocation, which is a dislocation of the ball and socket, the ball from the arm and the glenoid main socket, which is what happened to Mitchell Trubisky's left shoulder and happened to Jalen Johnson and Anthony Miller's shoulder. So people commonly call it a shoulder separation because then it's just to distinguish it from a shoulder dislocation. So sometimes the terminology gets confused. But the other thing can happen is the AC joint, even if you don't have trauma, can get to be painful. And it tends to get painful if your arm is crossing across your body like this. And so where does that happen? It can happen with repetitive motion, but it can happen when people lift weights heavily. Because if you're doing a bench press, bringing your arms forward, this joint pistons together. So that is often treated with an injection. If the injection doesn't help, you can shave down the end of the bone, and that's usually curative. I see it sometimes in big, strong linemen who lift weights a lot, that kind of thing. But that's not a traumatic thing. It's a gradual thing. So, yeah.
No, that very good information, Doc. There's no question about it. Running short on time. It is the Sports Medicine Update, our weekly podcast. Dr. Chad Prodromus, yours truly, Jerry Riles. We can transition and segue before we're out of here. You talk about offensive linemen. Well, as you well know, and I'm sure a lot of people watching and observing this podcast, following the National Football League, a lot of news locally here in Chicago. 3 offensive linemen for the Chicago Bears tested positive for COVID, and the facilities, Hallis Hall, was actually closed down on Thursday of this past week. Due to the cases, and we know that numbers here in Illinois, we've hit record numbers as far as one-day cases are concerned, and I believe nationally we hit over 102,000 cases in one day. So it's affected not only mainstream America, but of course the world of sports. And 15 teams at this podcast, the time of this podcast, have reported cases of COVID from whether it's players or front office people or a combination of the two. 15 National Football League teams have tested positive, and the league is coming down hard on a couple of them. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers were fined heavily, and of course the Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders were hit heavily as well, with the possibility of losing some draft picks because they did not follow the protocol. Are these numbers alarming to you? And I know we've gone back and forth and we've talked about it, whether it's on the collegiate level, where we've seen the cases spike up. We've seen it on the high school level here in Illinois, the battle between there. But now it's affecting the National Football League. Again, at least 15 teams have cases. And, we're here at week 9. Again, for those who may not be aware, Doc, your perspective on the increase and the rise of numbers regarding the cases of COVID.
Yeah, it doesn't concern me at all. The real truth on this, in my opinion, as I've mentioned before, is the Great Barrington Declaration or Great Barrington Proclamation. I would encourage everybody to look it up. It's not Barrington, Illinois. It's Barrington, Massachusetts. 3 very smart doctors, one from Stanford, one from Oxford, one from Harvard, got together and said we should do 2 things. We should let young people, low-risk people, live their life. If they get it, they get it. Don't worry about it. Breeds herd immunity. But be hyper vigilant to protect those with high risk. So, if you've got a team and a majority of the people get it, thankfully, we haven't really seen major problems by and large with these athletes. Almost all of them are going to get well. And the risk is extremely low, lower than the flu for young people. So it's actually kind of a plus. I mean, the more people that get it in a given environment, the less it's going to spread if somebody else gets it. So should everybody just go to a COVID party and get it? I mean, to tell you the truth, you could make a case for that. I think it's seen as extreme, and I'm in no way advocating it on the one hand. On the other hand, what would be a horrible mistake to make is to say, oh my goodness, more people have gotten infected. We're having to play this week without, several people at one position. Let's just pack it in. That would be letting the virus win. The one thing that is key, the worst thing about this virus, I think, is what it does is bad, but the secondary effects of the lockdowns, I think, are worse. And to lock people, to just punt on the NFL, it just shouldn't happen. They should just do pretty much what they're doing. Just play. And if people miss time, they miss time. Because in time, we're all going to be immune. The more players that get it, the quicker they'll get immune. And then there'll be a vaccine here at some point. But just persevere, And if you have to postpone a game here or there, fine. Just persevere. You cannot sacrifice society because it's sort of inconvenient that, this team's going to have to play without a few people. So be it,
Well, and we saw that again Thursday night. We saw the Green Bay Packers. They defeated the San Francisco 49ers 34-17, but we do know the 49ers team was depleted. A lot to do with the COVID that ran rampant through the organization. And so they were without a lot of players in that lost to the Green Bay Packers. But the argument, Doc, that many are saying as far as the front office and the NFL is that, okay, we look at it and, with a 53-man roster or however many players that are on the roster, practice squad and all that, you got a mixture and a diversity of players and dynamics. And we talked about offensive linemen in the past and, what's important for them to stay healthy and be able to, offset injuries as well as fight the pandemic. But the argument being posed out there, presented out there by the league is the fact that you got some 20-something-year-old kid, right? And you were there once, I was there once, our kids. And, the 20-something-year-olds are, they feel invincible and, that they can take on life and overcome everything. But you have teammates in the same locker room who are in their early to mid 30s, and they're a little bit more settled in their life, and they may have a young family. They may be, with some elder people in their life. And so the argument is these young cavalier rebel type of young kids in the 20, 21, 22 years of age bringing this virus in, and then the 32, 33, 34-year-old something guy gets infected, and then he takes it home, and it causes so much there. How do you defend that position?
It's very simple. The 20-year-olds, nothing's going to happen. I mean, there may be an outlying case here and there, but that could be true of anything. But nothing's going to happen to them. Nothing's really going to happen to the 30-year-old either. There was the one case I referred to before of an unfortunate young gentleman who was listed at 6'3" and 355, Division II, who passed. So, you know, I've mentioned before, people who are really big, maybe they shouldn't be playing. But it's pretty simple. If you're young person, young bachelor living, whatever, with a young lady, something like that, don't worry about it. If you're a player in your 30s, and you've got a wife or a girlfriend and young kids, don't worry about it. The case that you posited, if you're a player in your 30s and you're living with your 80-year-old diabetic, hypertensive father, then they should do, in my opinion, one of two things. The one is, and these, make other arrangements, living arrangements for that person for the time being. I mean, and if we're talking about the NFL, I think the finances are available for people to do that, or stay away. Eddie Goldman made a decision not to play, and I don't know all the reasons why, but I know he's listed as asthmatic, so he might have felt he was at increased risk, and he probably is. So if the and you hit the nail right in the head. It's not you, and it's not your kids, and it's not your wife or girlfriend. It's the older person that you're coming in contact with. So either don't come in contact with them, at least during the season, or don't play. But to shut down the entire operation because of those people, when a good option exists for those people, right? I mean, they don't have to play if they think they're at risk. Or maybe, there again, all right. So you have a 30-year-old. And so how old is their father or mother going to be? 50? 60?
Depending,
right. So 50 or 60. So I'm 66, right? And if you're 60-year-old male, a 60-year-old male who's in good shape, I'm not worried about it, honestly, is a pretty low risk. So it could be their parent, could be 50, could be 60 if they're in good shape. And if they don't worry about it, then I wouldn't worry about it either. But to your point, if there is somebody at high risk, either have them not be in the household with you or just don't play. But that's a small minority of people.
Yeah, but it's hard. It's easy for us to say, but the reality of it for these players, Doc, is the fact that they only get game checks in the season, and they get the game checks every week for the most part. Every game that they play, they get a game check. So many of these guys, they count on this money year round, and so it's not that easy for them to miss a game because they want to protect themselves and protect their loved ones.
Then they should play, and then they could make arrangements for their mother or father to be someplace else. And by the way, if the alternative is shutting down the league, then nobody gets paid.
That's exactly right.
Right. So I don't think you want to do that. And the people you talked about are a small percentage of people. Maybe the league helps them. Maybe the league makes tremendous money. Maybe the league finds a way to find living arrangements for people. I mean, you can always do that. You can find living arrangements. It's just a matter of finances, and these guys are not poor.
No, I mean, they're not poor on our standards, but this is money this is another topic for another day. But a lot of these athletes, it's unfortunate they don't have the management skills as far as money is concerned, and they think that this money is going to last them a lifetime, and that's just simply not true.
Well, the league should help. The union should help. I mean, we're not talking about a complicated thing here. The alternative of shutting down the league makes things drastically worse, right? So you deal with the people that have an issue, and you help them. And we're talking about them living in some other kind of a facility, or a few people don't play. But shutting down the league and just saying punt, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but
no.
But it's imperative to keep it going. Really, Jerry, it's an allegory, in my opinion, for the schools the same way. You take the people that are low risk and let them come, And then the people that have multi-generational homes, or the people that are at high risk or high-risk teachers, then you make accommodations for them. But have life go on and just make accommodations in that circumstance.
Well, I think the league has done, the National Football League has done a very good job in trying to control this. And unfortunately, just like society, the numbers are starting to escalate. And
Jerry, I got to interrupt you just one thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're right. I totally agree. But bear in mind, and I've said this every week as well, don't look at cases. Look at hospitalizations and look at mortality. And those are not going up, right?
Well, but that's part of the argument. Some of the medical facilities around the country are saying that the numbers are going up in the hospitals, and some places they don't have enough ventilators to.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
I don't know.
There's no shortage of ventilators. There's no shortage of ventilators. No place is getting overwhelmed. Forgive me.
I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm only going on the data that's presented. And from the league's perspective, Doc, they want to do everything possible in their power, I believe, to make sure that they're this and the cases, regardless if they're accurate numbers or not, they don't want the numbers to go up. And so that's why they instituted fines. And again, I mentioned the Raiders and the Steelers. I think John Gruden was fined $150,000 because he ignored, the shield, and Mike Tomlin with the Pittsburgh Steelers get hit with $100,000 fines because he didn't take control of his players and the mask and everything. So the league, they're doing everything in their power to make sure that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
So,
I think the league's doing a great job. To be clear, I think they're doing a great job. My only point is, while it gets a little frustrating, the thing to do is just deal with a little frustration of people being out and keep going. That's all I'm saying. But
No,
I think they're doing a great job.
I think they're doing a great job, and unlike the NBA and the National Hockey League, they were in bubbles. The NHL was up in Canada. We know the NBA was down in Orlando, and the bubble was superb almost. Major League Baseball, we see what happened there, and of course now the numbers are starting to rise as far as football is concerned. All in all, Doc, it's again, we stated this before, we're all in this together, and I don't know if anyone has the right answer. But I'm just, as a selfish fan, I'm pleased that we have reached week 9 of the National Football League, because
Totally agree.
And the fact that we're playing college football, because now people have something to look forward to as far as entertainment is concerned, for the weekend. And of course, the Masters are coming up in golf, so it gives people some type of release.
Absolutely.
Some type of, relieve the stress in their lives, the daily lives. But hey, it's always a pleasure, and I know it's a stickler for people, but it's something that we certainly have to address every week moving forward, because it's affecting not only our personal lives, but it's affecting the world of sports, the world that we love so much here in this great country we call the United States of America. Hey, Doc, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, how do they find you?
Our office phone is 847-699-6810. We've got a great staff. You got a live person if you call. Email is just ortho, like orthopedic ortho, at ISMOC. It's Illinois Sports Medicine Orthopedic Center.net.
It's the Sports Medicine Update with Dr. Chad Padromas. Hey, Doc, let's enjoy this time that we have as far as the temperatures are concerned. Our old buddy on WGN Channel 9, Tom Skilling, said we're 10 to 25 degrees above normal for the next few days. So let's get an opportunity to get out there and take advantage of it and enjoy it.
For sure.
We're hearing that the winter is going to be pretty tough, so we don't want to think about that. Doc, thank you so very much. Always a pleasure, and have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Jerry. You as well.
You're the best.